Hey, what's going on, guys? Warframe just dropped a pretty packed update, and this one is way more than just a cleanup pass. So first off, the new quest is called Jade Shadows, Constellations, and it continues the Stalker storyline with Sirius, Orion, Vina, and Ryoku. If you have already finished the Jade Shadows quest, you are good to go, and the new one apparently runs about 30 to 40 minutes. That is a pretty solid length for a cinematic quest, especially in a game like Warframe, where these story beats usually feel like a nice break from the usual grind loop. What is really cool here is that your earlier Jade Shadows decisions carry over, and you can actually change them later in Pontus Tower, which makes the whole thing feel a bit more connected instead of being a one and done mission chain. And speaking of Pontus Tower, that is one of the bigger additions in this update too. It is a new hub location and it is tied directly to the new Railjack content. Once you clear the quest, you unlock Uranus Proxima, and with it come two new Railjack missions, the Kuva Wytch and Scoria's Angel. These are not just straight ship battles either. They mix Railjack combat with an assassination style encounter, so it sounds like the kind of thing that keeps you moving instead of just sitting in space and shooting targets for 10 minutes. You can run them with Protoframe Railjacks or your own Railjack when solo through Pontus Tower, and the missions give you unlimited Revelite, ordnance munitions, and dome charges, which is a very nice touch. Archwing is disabled here, so the focus stays on the ship and the encounter itself. The rewards are where a lot of players are probably going to spend their time. Okay. You can earn Emerald Talent and Crimson Talent currencies, which give a normal run payout and a better Steel Path payout, and there are blueprint drops for Sirius and Orion parts, along with Pride and Wrath blueprints. On top of that, there are new Arcanes in the reward pool too, including Primary Compression, Arcane Sculptor, Secondary Cryogenic, and Melee Assimilation. That means this update is not just story content, it also feeds right back into build crafting, farming, and min-maxing in a way Warframe players are definitely used to. The new Warframe itself is probably going to be the thing everyone talks about the most. Sirius and Orion are introduced as the 65th Warframe, and the whole idea is that these are two Warframes in one with opposing combat styles. That alone already sounds wild, but the update also gives them signature heavy scythes called Pride and Wrath. The fact that the primary Warframe can be switched freely from Pontus Tower makes it sound like this is going to be one of the more flexible frame setups in the game, and probably one of the more interesting ones to learn. They also added Gemini skins for Garuda and Ash, which is a nice bonus for fashion players who care just as much about the look as the loadout. There is also a bunch of support content layered in around the main feature. Styanax Prime Access is in, along with Aphentis Prime and Athodai Prime. Dante gets a Titonus collection, and several older weapons get Incarnon upgrades, including Obex, Destreza, Stug, Ballistica, and Vectis. The Stug especially stands out because it got a real usability pass. Its projectiles stack better now, blobs explode at 10 stacks, the alt fire charges faster, and the maximum charge shoots more stacks than before. That feels like the kind of update that takes a joke weapon and makes it a little more dangerous, which is always fun to see. A lot of the rest of the patch is about quality of life and polish, but there are some meaningful gameplay changes in there too. All Railjack missions now support Steel Path, which is a big deal for players who like pushing harder content. They also improved Railjack systems overall, reworked junction specters, added a new camera position setting, improved knockdown behavior, and added damage over time previewing. There are also accessibility and UI changes like moving controller-specific cursor settings into the controller menu, changing the default text size from small to medium, and cleaning up a bunch of UI weirdness that had been bothering people for a while. Then there are the performance changes, and this is the kind of stuff that might not sound exciting at first, but it matters a lot once you are actually playing. Warframe now makes better use of unused VRAM on Windows when possible, which should help texture and mesh streaming and reduce micro stutters in some cases. They also made a long list of optimizations for lighting, rendering, CPU usage, streaming, and memory footprint. That is the kind of work that does not always get a huge reaction on reveal day, but players absolutely feel it once they're in missions and everything loads cleaner and runs smoother. And of course, the bug fix list is huge. There are fixes for abilities not hitting the right targets, companion mod issues, Railjack matchmaking problems, focus ability problems, quest progression bugs, cosmetics displaying wrong, camera glitches, and a ton of mission-specific issues across different tile sets and quest lines. It is the kind of patch where you can tell they went hunting for a lot of the stuff that has been mildly annoying players for ages. Even the little things got attention, like fixing the Pride palette name, improving the Quanta tooltip, and making sure the Awakening Somachord reward actually shows up where it should. So overall, this update feels like a pretty loaded mix of new story, has new Railjack stuff, new build options, and a giant cleanup pass on top. It is the kind of patch that gives you a reason to jump back in, try the new missions, poke at the new frame, and immediately notice that a bunch of old annoyances are finally gone.